All right, so I am live. So I've been working through an issue this morning. I've been hitting my API hard, trying to just hone some certain principles that I enjoy coding with, like composition, and really focus on Java's signature-based development strategy using aspects. So, which are pretty much, I mean, not they aren't annotations, but annotations are a type of aspect, reusable aspect anyway. So right now I'm working through date time issues because I can create, but updating becomes a problem with my serialization. I'm trying to avoid writing my own. I just want like a pattern string that effing works. And I think I'm getting into semantics of my databases strategy because I'm using Postgres. Java's abstraction strategy, I'm using now offset datetime instead of zoned datetime, so that way my client doesn't really have to know about zones and it can send me UTC. What else? And this probably means I need to do some like deserialization on TypeScript, where I parse all the dates. At the very least, serialization, so I can make it come out as this ISO. What was it 8.6 something? Right now you can see it works, or it did work. I'm getting back this date time string, which is great. It comes in my localized time, makes me nervous. I don't know how my database knows that, or my database, my server. Let's see. Do I give it information? So my server is responding in GMT, so that's good. Most likely UTC. Yeah, I'm not sending anything that would indicate my time zone. That would be ideal, actually. If I could send it via header, my server go, oh, I know who you are based on this time. How I would send it. Because one of the problems I'm having right now, so I said creation works. Right now I'm doing a put for an update. My server's running and screaming. And I have not been set up for two monitors. I've actually been working on one monitor. Sometimes I feel like it gives me focus time. But now I'm streaming just to kind of, oh well, just typing in the Streamlabs. So my rental service here, let's iterate through here. Jeez Louise. Yeah, I gotta clean up my imports, it's pretty bad. So I guess I hit, okay. So what's my error here? I should turn this on. Who was lobbying? Oh. confused. My lobbying aspect. Oh. Oh, I see. I'm not getting the stack trace, and that's what I'm... Okay. That is correct, actually. Or for what I want. So, I believe I actually got this to save correctly. So my update, I do a 404 life check. Does this exist before I even try to update? Because I don't want update ever doing a creation. Cool. Very cool. And that's why my exceptions display, because I have the global root setting to be error. So that makes sense. And right now I'm blown away the database, so I'm just kind of deleting things. I'm trying to change my model, especially the date times. So, and luckily this is not a production app, so I can just kind of blow it away off every time. For now. Once I have data that I don't want to continuously destroy, I'm going to need to integrate migration processes, maybe like Flyway, something like that. I don't want to be managing this via SQL. Ideally, I'd like to manage this via the ORM somehow. I think that's a pipe dream, though. Alright. So let me actually read that exception. I need to get rid of this. This is killing me. Alright. Shit hits the fan. And by the way, I fixed my Lombok issues. That was a POM import missing that makes the timings of Lombok sync before Mapstruct. And it seemed that it would only generate essentially the ID mapping. And I think there just happens to be like a timing thing. And I did it again, son of a bitch. Okay. I've ate so many potato chips, I feel awful now. Right, so this is the entity not found exception that I throw. Now I'm not doing shit with this right now. And I'm reusing this just because, I don't know, I'm trying to avoid reinventing the wheel everywhere, and that felt like a very explicit error. It's supposed to be from the entity manager class, so I might get flack for that, but I think it's good. I think it's a good way to handle it, or at least in my my server logic. I say server logic, but I'm pretty sure this is my controller. No, this is my server. Okay. Alright, so I need to open my global. This is perfect because I did remove stuff from this file and clearly I didn't do a great job. Clearly it's not doing what I expect. Well, no, it is doing what I expect. So I am getting 404 not found. Alright, well, I'm embarrassed. Color me embarrassed. Okay, great. So I have been doing that. I'm just blind. That's what I get for what? It's the weekend, being stoned. Professionalism, kids. Don't smoke in code. Okay, so this is functioning in the sense that this doesn't exist. So let's so not get. I want to post, and I'd like ideally my goal is to remove. These are custom thrown together API stuff like or Postman collections. Like this is when I was headed down a path of a separate entity API, and it was a pattern that I learned from my job or was kind of replicating. It was over complex. You're too much deserialization, reserialization. You can do it all in one monolith, and for starting just by myself, a monolith is perfect. Good namespacing and interface versus implementation separation is what I'm going for, and using composition. So I think the way I'm doing it right now works really well, and I enjoy it. I think that's what matters most. Okay, so doing the creation. Creation succeeds. I get timestamps that are local. How the fuck does it know that it's local? Right? Like, I didn't send anything else that says who I am, where I'm from. This is not a parse date. So I'm trying to go towards UTC, and somehow my server time, although set in the JVM, which is something that I just did, so let me go to the POM, and I'll explain a couple things I've done recently. And yeah, I'm on an old version of Spring. I'd like to change that, but I did have some breaking changes, so I'm waiting to do that. And once I stabilize some of my patterns for date management, etc., hopefully I don't regret this. So a JVM argument for setting the user for time zone UTC. Theoretically, that should make my, and you'll see that pass down JVM arguments. Well, that's embarrassing. It's in the wrong one. I say it. Don't smoking. Smoking code, kids. All right. Means a lot less in Java docs than it means anything else. It's because configuration, yeah. All right, let's redo that. We're going to shut her down. Just gonna use this one. So that's what I really want. Side by side. And now I can run tests. I was using skip tests, but I did. Well, embarrassing. Okay. What's going on? Something was wrong. Something's wrong. Okay, I made that change. Spring doc is there. Weird. Somehow I fat fingered that, and I told. Did I commit that? Please don't tell me I committed that stupidity. Doesn't look like it did. Okay, all right, that was just dumb. By my being. Yeah, so I have my mappers weren't working because of that. Actually, let me show you here. I'm using the not MapStruct. It is MapStruct, but. So Lombop Mapstruct Binding is the library, and I did hoist all my versions up here. Felt that makes the most sense. Keep them all in one place and reference them like variables. Or I guess properties. Holy shit, that looks so stupid. That's funny. Oh shit, that's great. You can even see it's mangled here. Noted. That is hysterical. Phew. Alright, well that's fine. Yeah, so I'm using the Mapstruct binding. This syncs their processes. So the Lombop happens before Mapstruct. So Mapstruct can just do the mappings based on getters, right? So that's great. That worked really well. Solved my problem. Very upsetting. I'm now on Java 17 entirely, or at least my target and my source and target are the same. So that's really exciting because I just want to be there because God forbid I have to do native queries, which I'm trying to avoid. I want to do ORM, very ORM native, and anywhere I can, which is kind of the opposite of native, but I want to focus at the Java level and not. I want my data model and my database to reflect the hierarchy and business rules, which people disagree on, but when it comes down to Cascade types, I don't want that to be completely Java in memory managed. I want you to try to create an entity and be like, hey, jackass, this is the structure of your objects. Do it or don't. And then I want like the API to add validation on top of that so bad data doesn't get in there. But when it comes to like, for example, I was trying to make an icon managed entity, it didn't work. But like, I want my structure to say, hey, you're inserting the string. I know of the string in terms of an entity, and it's non-unique, or it is. Sorry, it's since it's not unique, I need to associate. I haven't gotten to there. I struggled there. I have a whole branch that's kind of dead from the past couple days, but I've done a lot. I've made a lot of progress. Pretty happy with that. I have aspects that do some pretty cool stuff now in terms of. So a lot of it is abstracted away from the controller specifically, things that I want my whole application doing. I want the path variable and the object that implements unique, which is my composition for an ID, which I like, should always ensure that they match. Like they should match, and they'll throw a exception, and that will become handled. That'll be handled right here. So that'll be a bad request, and you'll have that in your message. And so I have a lot of really cool groupings I've done via interfaces. For example, created versus updated. Create entity on the create method and update entity. So that just gives me the ability to say, all right, I require an ID for update. Like if you don't give me an ID, none of this is going to work, and that matching I just showed you is not even going to function correctly, or it will give you an error. So update entity is kind of just an empty interface, but that gives you like a label for validation on the view models. So not null requires the group of update. So you have to have an ID, and then create, and then it gives you really nice validation. And I made it so these are validated down the view model because you'll see that relationships have the @valid on the view model here, and that forces all of the layers of validation chain down. So right now I'm just using I'm using my data model to manage a large entity, but I only have one controller. Like there's no fees controller, there's no cost controller, there's just a rental controller. The overarching thing I care about, right? It has all this composed, and this is the interface, right? And the entry point is it deserializes as my rental view. So that's pretty cool, and I think the right way to do it. So there's no setters, you'll notice. I don't think there's a need for me to define those. I'm just trying to define the data shape as well as some API schema stuff here. So it gives examples, and I can have more detailed Swagger docs. I did start this with the intent of doing a generated controller Swagger doc from a spec into this, but I'm a developer and I'm just riffing. I'm not doing a DBA thing. I am wearing all those hats, but at this point I have a functioning project that I'm shaping closer to the API spec I created, but I think it's going to kind of have its own life. And I'll export it, compare, and find the things I don't like that I want from my original kind of like, here's my API spec versus my Java application. So anyway, I'm rambling because I'm kind of bored and trying to avoid my date problem. So, like I said, local, let's see, this is probably not even up. Yeah, I'm an idiot. So I just changed the JVM arg to be in the appropriate place. Let's see how this, if this like works. My garbled API there. So nothing's really screaming at me yet. And I've disabled everything. So if you saw in like the application YAML, I have made everything just show me errors, which I think is a good way to do it. Web, the Spring Framework web, I'm saying info. But it doesn't even tell me, I've targeted things so that way like I don't even see like the actuate, like, hey, it's configured and everything. I just want it to be silent. Big hat. And so I'm working towards getting like more health check information. I want to put the project version in here. It looks complicated. It shouldn't be too bad though. I mean, I put the banner here, which is pretty easy to configure. So I want to have like a lot of details of like what is the app, what's its current state, so loggers and devs can find that. But I also need to add a health check endpoint, which I think Actuator should give me right out the gate. So if I do it really well, I could do it in one place, define it in one place, and run it in both the HTTP environment versus the console log environment. So we'll see. So all right, so that's up and running. Ramble. So I'm doing my post create. Ta-da! So I'm gonna kind of show the crowd of 0 people. Really, this is for me to document. Kind of like how scientists record themselves. Alright, so we'll notice I now have a new ID, it's a new created entity. Let's go down to dates. So I've offset date time, which is what I've switched to. You can see that it's using a local date under the hood, and it has the offset of Eastern Standard Time. What spooks me about that is that makes me feel as though my server that's running here is running Eastern Standard Time, which is not great. Yeah, so my local date, so the time is kind of where we get caught here. So yeah, 4 is like it's at Eastern Standard Time, and then you have the offset. So when this gets stored, I expect this to get stored as no time zone assumed UTC, because that's how Postgres prefers from what I've read. Alright, so that's returned. We'll see that. We'll see the local date time. So this would like, I originally thought this was a win. I was like, alright, I did it. Hurrah, huzzah. So let me grab my newly created entity here, because I am blown away the database. This is kind of the tedious part. I should make a test suite for this, but I'm lazy in the worst way. No. So you'll notice that now that I've updated, I do get the returned local date time, but created at is not the local date time. What's good is the offset is correct. Like it is it correct? Yeah, it's 5 hours off. So that's great. Like that is ideal for deserialization. This might work. What I don't like is, like I said, it challenges the configuration that I believe the database and the server are supposed to be running, UTC, Greenwich Mean Time, GMT, because colonialism has its ugly head still in many day-to-day things, like my job. Doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies. But you'll notice, like, this is correct. Like, when my front end deserializes that, ta-da, beautiful. Why the fuck is my offset date time returning a local date time in my date time when I've configured the jar to be UTC? So I think I need to set Spring Boot to be somehow manually registered to UTC. I think that's my next step, because I know this problem isn't complete. It looks complete. It is not. I have some things I'm working on where, well, that's embarrassing. Oh, yeah, because I didn't reload. Is my front end not running? So, like I said, I'm doing a monolith. And let me pull this over. Let's move it over to the screen. Monolith. Google gobble. Google gobble. So I'm working on a material application just because I don't work in material and I don't want to do my day job every day, all the time, for fun. I want to do something a little different, challenge my mind to think in many modes. Maybe a mistake, maybe not. So I have a really simple, maybe not simple, table that looks for the timestamps in a very ugly way. Like there's no typing here, and it just looks for the at, and then it chooses which template to pass it to. So right now I'm using Medium, so that parses the string, and ta-da, Bob's your uncle. The date pipe can take that string and make it look like it's a date, which is really ideal to me. I don't have to worry about the serialization deserialization problem, and my display can deserialize appropriately. So that way I don't have to worry about some nitty gritty. I'm sure this is going to bite me in the ass later in a different way when I do hydrate entities with dates, because this will become a challenge if I have more than just timestamps. Timestamps right now makes this easy. The second I'm going into scheduling, I have a feeling I'm going to want to use date objects or I'm going to have to in JavaScript, and then I'm going to have to make sure they come out in that time zone based, or sorry, offset, not time zone. Same, all bullshit. It's just a different notation, which is the most frustrating part about dates. All different notations, and they contextually mean different things because, well, when colonialism's taking over, it's really what they want people to see, not what is true. And it becomes arbitrary line in the sand all over the earth. And it's geopolitical, which I think Postgres did a great job describing the the time problem, less the date. I guess, right, I digress. So I'm working on a problem where once I do successfully save, which I realized I wasn't having a great situation of, or editing anyway, because I've been editing. So I'm using this path, not the new. So if I did new and I created, I probably would be fine, but I was editing and the timestamps weren't deserializing right. Now I expect this to work more appropriately, and my WebStorm did crash, so we're going to quickly run that. So I'm setting up an outlet to make kind of like a step reform, and I'll be honest, I'm just kind of going in the path of least resistance at this point. I'm working at my job on methods of kind of creating router-based, not only forms, but kind of views. So right now, this is just kind of me figuring out how can I get over this finish line fast enough. And I think there's going to be a lot of usability and design applied after I have this base structure. Not my favorite way to do it, but you can see that my rental form is going to have the cost outlet here. And that's just going to be routed in, and that's going to be another form. And I haven't gotten that to that point because, well, date time. So I'm going to move forward as if my date time problem is solved, but I know it's not completely. So we're save. It says, hey, cannot match any routes. That's interesting. I did see that before, but I wasn't certain why. But now I think I know why. So that is because I added to the outlet here. So let's say I redo that. Let me close my Chrome here. I know I'm using Opera, but I really like its integrations. It's pretty sleek. I'm worried, where did this come from? Okay, so I think it did save. Come on, Mac. Thank you. Yep. So I got a get, and then I have a put. So I sent the payload here. It responded with a more updated payload there. So what preview was, update at was 1610 with the offset. Update at is 1610. It's a payload, sorry. Update at was 2110. The parsable but different date response. And then I get the local date time. So it is accurate. It does work. Really scary though, because I should have complete and utter control over that based on my JSON format. So maybe I do need to go down to this deserializer, which I was trying to avoid because my job is doing that, and it works, but it feels like so much boilerplate for something that is very important and isn't easy, but I was just hoping to get away with it. So now I have another problem where my application needs to have a router outlet that's recognized. So I'm going to put those back, but I'm going to be a little more explicit. Maybe my generic naming is not enough. We'll get real spicy, explicit with it. The person who I know says spicy makes me hate everything. Okay. And I do not know why I haven't made my app go straight to the one route that I have implemented. So it says cannot match any routes. So I'm going to use the ChatGPT. Or let me first start with the Angular docs, see if I can make sense of it right away. And we're going to pause to take a smoke break, and check the laundry. Okay, so it loads Chrome, which is really funny because it is like a Chromium app, but or not Chromium. It's not Chromium. It's got to be launching Chrome. So named router outlet is something that I want to understand a little bit better. Router outlet contract. That's interesting. Cool. I didn't even know it had like a... What? That's weird. I would not have thought that's what it wants me to do. I don't know how I feel about that. So the path is compose, and you're saying in this outlet, put the compose path. I guess? Okay, so I'm going to try that really quick. Wrong IDE. And I switched to WebStorm in particular because they just have so much better Angular support. Like some of the extensions give me some, but like the control clicking and it's just unmatched right now. Or at least maybe it's my ignorance, which I accept. Alright, so I'm going to say in the rentals form, because right now I'm kind of just doing explicit chaining, which maybe at some point I can get a little more intelligent about it, but I'm going to be outlet. Alright, I don't even know. So the commands is just like this, so alright, I'm gonna be real lazy. Alright everybody, you're gonna witness some sketchy, sad shit that I'm about to do. I'm gonna show you guys who I am. Alright. ChatGPT. Do your thing. And this is what I do when I'm real lazy or just feeling a little stuck. I don't do this for work because this would be prostitute. So this is my own work, and I don't have any. I'm not for art. This is my art, and I think this is a tool I use to enable my art to be effective. But it's not for everybody, and I do not use AI generated art for like anything else. Well, it's fine, that'll work. So I just gave it the rentals controller, which is my navigate, which I don't know what to write, and I'm being lazy about it. And then I just gave it my actual template that rentals is using, and then I gave it the app router module so it can help me. So yeah, I want to navigate to that child route. Yep. I want to use the cost outlet. So I need to do something about saying navigate. Alright, so testing and debugging, check URL params. I'm not using a param really. Well, I guess it is a path parameter, not a request parameter. Yay! My boyfriend will be home soon. I'm probably gonna run and make some mac and cheese for the family. So 1 doesn't seem correct. It's saying that it should work the way it is. Yeah, I could debug the route activation. What? That's cool. That's cool. I'm doing that. I'm doing that. I didn't know that. I've told people I'm like an expert in Angular. It's really quite sad. But I have to say, I was a poo-poo of AI, but AI has it's proven to me to be a useful tool. But I believe it to be a tool and not a replacement for people. There'll certainly be people who will try to replace people, but I think there's just nothing like a human touch. Because people are an accountable party. I think there's a lot more security in a person than a machine in that regard. Right, so now let's go back to editing. That is cool, I had no idea. I'm really glad I went through this exercise because this is going to be really helpful for my job. My job. So it can't match this to anything. So let's go back to my router config. So I have a new versus ID one. Right? This one ideally will have a resolver on it. What else? It isn't outputting to the outlet. So let's go back to my ChatGPT. We'll go to that. back to the docs here. So yeah, it's saying for a router link, I would say in the commands for the outlet, specifically the pop-up one, use this path. So what I need to do is I need to nest everything I've got. I'm just clicking everything on under Insight. So let's go to my rentals component here, and I'm going to say for this path, so for that path, I'm now going to say in commands, you're an object, for outlet, cost outlet, that's where I want you to go. So if I look back here, I'm saying for outlets, use the cost outlet, and here's your route, and I need to wrap it. So that's what I'm missing there. So for outlets, cost outlet. Now wrap you so it's saying, hey, I've got this URL. Ew. It's awful. It's kind of terrible. And it's like encoded. Ugh, it's kind of terrible. I mean, it's the internals of Angular. I'm not going to judge too much. But it says, I can't find for that. Weird. So if I want to chain these routers, so what it's saying there is I don't need a nested outlet, or nested routing structure. I think in reality they're going to be separate and decoupled. So I shouldn't have to load the rental resolved, right? And I made it so it was only for creation, right? Which makes sense. So that's the children of rental. Okay. So I don't want to say outlet here. I'm going to say, hey, for that outlet, use this path. Now for that path, this is where I just need to simplify that greatly. And we're going to format this. All right, great. So that is all done. Let it generate. For better or worse, this is where I go take my smoke break. So I do need to say, hey, you go in outlet here. It's a little weird, a little strange. So let me go back here and undo that. So that's fine. Dang you. Still can't find it. Is that because the way it is being encoded? So much for me leaving. Um, hmm. No, it shows me in the debugger here. All right. So because it's saying in the, okay, something's wrong. I see. That's actually really cool. So I could have possibly left my structure there. Let's see if I undo that. Let's see if I go back to my router and I say, hey, you are a sub-entity, therefore get managed here. So you are a sub-entity, you're managed within the rental. You're probably just going to hit the rental API because I'm lazy and I haven't created a cost controller, which will likely be a more reporting-based controller for cost history. It's probably not even the cost controller. So let's say if I simplify my scenario to what the docs have. It's not even going to be cost new. We're just going to take this. Nope, we're not even going to have children. Right? Did it reload? Must have. Just gonna do it just in case. What's weird is it's saying, okay, you're within the rental. This ID. Fetch the cost outlet. Just name cost. Do I have a space there? Is that what's happening? LOL. Did not change anything about it. Got it. Alright, well, I'm going to be right back. I'm going to take my smoke break. But yeah, I've made a ton of progress on this project. I've made my auto mapper, or MapStruct, not AutoMapper, that's C#, work seamlessly. I made it so my one controller doesn't have to have all this logic, but it does come with the consequence of my cascade types on my entities. But I'm really trying to work on my JPA, RM, and even my database modeling. I'm really tackling my full stack skills here. So I'm really proud of some of the work I've done within the last week. Cleaned up a lot of ugly shit that I'm not proud of. So although there's some open-ended issues with my dates, the dates do work, but probably won't work in a production environment, which is so maybe they did, okay, they don't work. But getting closer, baby steps. So BRB. Alright, I am back. Threw some laundry and got a little distracted. So, anyway, so where I am at is I'm attempting to just move forward where, hey, I created this. I'm trying to make a more modular, per view model form and stitch them together in a way that says, okay, if I want them all together, this component outlet, or sorry, a router outlet method could make me stitch them together and be one submit. Or I can make them more like a stepper and say, all right, submit, endpoint creates. Submit, endpoint creates, right? So, that being said, my API architecture is kind of taking a different approach recently, like within the last day. I took my rental service and I got it to be pretty much one-liners, which originally I was chaining the creation of costs and everything, and I was like, I know that you can use JPA's repository to just save, and it should save all sub-entities. So that's in reality what I'm doing now, which is what I want, what I wanted ultimately. So my front end was kind of saying, all right, if I have to do that, I'm going to allow a null current cost, and then I bring you to a new page that does just the cost. Truthfully, I only have a rental API controller at the moment, and I don't really see a need to create separate services and controllers. Like my company that this is going to be, this company is only going to deal with rentals, right? Whether you're doing a Airbnb style rental, which maybe your taxonomy on the front end will look different, but ultimately it's either a lease or it's a short-term booking. And I have that defined in my kind of nouns or verbs here. Big difference between the two. I think the leasing and the booking are more verbs, but so I'll have a book. So I have so these repositories have to exist, right? And they do exist, which would support my ability to create services and then controllers, right? The cost and fees, these might not be necessary at all anymore. I might be able to get rid of them and only deal with like a rental, and then because I wanted the context of tracking the sub-entities, right? I wanted to be able to say, hey, the entity is my cost entity here. Let's have IDs. Let's do auditing on these things. So that way I get the granularity per relationship, not just this ginormous entity that the second I need a multiple. As soon as this turns from somehow, and it probably shouldn't be ever a cost, but that's what the fees are for. But let's say a relationship turns to a list instead of a single entity. Like the complexity would be awful. Like I mean, a database table gives you a flat structure versus separate tables and relationships give you the hierarchical nested data points, right? And that's what I'm looking for. So ultimately, like I could have had a cost flat on the rental, but it doesn't scale. And even within the cost concept, I wanted itemization. So I had fees. And so these are, and I recently implemented fees to be an entity instead of a big decimal. That was how this started. So I'm working on that, and I even added an icon like string. I was trying to make that managed entity, as I was saying earlier, so you can only do the supported font awesome icons that my app will have loaded. That'll be a front-end thing for now, but I'd like to, at the database level, say, hey, this data set only supports these entries based on data within itself. Like, I want it to be self-referential in the sense of the data structure enforces what the platform needs. Like, a lot of people say business logic and data concerns should be separate, and I'm like, yeah, but when your business is the data, then yeah, your business logic layer is going to be dispersed throughout the database management layer through the Java, like, or either the business rules layer, say usually your service and validation, which are separated in many different ways in code, to your protocol, which is usually HTTP at the moment, right? Like on web protocols. So just trying to delineate between those separations of concerns and where do you put certain parts. Like your service isn't really ultimately where your validation is anymore. Your service might have a not valid method, which is what ties it in, but how you codify that outside of the @valid is done via annotations on properties or methods, preferably methods. So there's a lot of ways to skin the cat, and I think my database model should enforce the business rules to an extent. Like that's where some things the database does really well. So I'm rambling. Let's see. Right, this isn't working. Makes me sad. So it's NG04002. 04002. Okay, we're gonna Google that. So now that I'm seeing how this is structured, the route path probably doesn't go off of the primary route path, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so it's setting Hengo strict to cost. But cost doesn't exist at that level because my app routing module, wrong project, is nested. So let's say that I vastly simplify this like I was doing before. Let's get rid of the child. Nope, that's wrong. Set the children there. Why is my delete bot getting called? What just happened? It doesn't even tell me what type it is. What the fuck? So I'm not. That's really creepy. That's fine. So the cost outlet's now my URL. The console does not have any errors, but it does not render. So I'd expect it to render here, but it's not. So it did work. It's now officially routing there. But I don't see it. So let's just kind of validate that I have code there, right? So go back to my WebStorm. I have a cost component, yep. It does a bunch of things that have commented out, yep. Because I never got this to work because I knew I had to make a fees entity, which I finally did. So now, instead of it just being a input with a number fees, right? LOL. It should be a tree editor. Well, it could be a few things, right? It just needs to be a list of a name. It's a subform, right? That needs to be created there. So, and I am trying to use reactive forms because at my job we've decided to use template forms, and so I'm trying to learn where do reactive forms fit and how does that work. Maybe not the best choice, but this project's for me to learn. Yeah, so that's working. Let me see if I can console log, right? I mean, I can just do a fucking breakpoint, man. Alright, go here. Sources. Cost. Component. Really does worry me that it says delete's being called, but it's not. It's update. It's just my mappings are really wrong. So that never runs. So although it finds the cost outlet in terms of rendering it there, I think this is wrong. I think me putting a router outlet in, that would suck because I was hoping that would work and I'm in the wrong project again. God damn it. Like putting a router outlet, was it here? Where did I put it? Sorry, this is rentals. Let's get out of that. Rental. Yeah, put a router outlet outside the form. Has the name. So now let's say this isn't what we want to do. Let me go to the main content. Right? Because this is where the router outlet actually lives. Let's say we put it in the same place. We're saying, no, we want to support a router outlet side by side because this is maybe the right way to do it. I don't know. Okay, so we're loading our data. We are now initializing it, which is kind of crazy. Wow, that worked. LOL. So, interesting. I mean, it's cool. Is this how I want to architect my app? I could see myself, like, because if I'm trying to make a Angular native step-based application, this might be the right route, like, no pun intended, like, where I'm saying, hey, my URL, I have this rental loaded. You're there, but you're separate aspect of this application, because I'm kind of an aspect-oriented Java programming right now, where, hey, you're just in your own resolver, you're in your own component. Cost, hey, yeah, I do know about the rental, but that data is outside of the scope of this. I just want to deal with the cost. Now that might run into issues because I don't have a cost controller, and maybe I'll just have to implement it so that way I can have this kind of architecture. But I am trying to ask myself, where do I need to give and take? Like, what is the architecture I'm trying to make? I'm trying to make a REST-based service architecture. I need to support viewing rentals, which I haven't added image support yet, which is going to be freaking critical for anything like this. I haven't added amenities, which fees might be tied to, fees might not be. So there's a lot of entities that need to be created, and creating an approach that makes it so every sub-entity has to have a controller. It's not really something I want to do. Just out of knee-jerk, I'm one person. So weighing that, like I've done architectures where you have every sub-entity has its own controller, and you can save sub-entities via the parent entity if you have it all. So I think the smartest move for me is to right now make this a monolithic form. It hurts me to say out loud. I don't know. I don't know how I want to go about this. I'm overcomplicating it for sure. This is just a CRUD operation with subentities, which is something that I've faced before, but I've had a lot of over-architected solutions, and that's why I really just kind of want to append the subentity. Like, so this is a wizard, right? What I'm describing here is a wizard format where this would like disappear and collapse down into, say, rental, and that would be like its route name, and then its sub-route name would be rental cost here, right? And from there you could so on and so forth. You could kind of create a stepper just at the router level. A lot of people don't do that, so let's go take a look at material stepper, right? Like, they aren't doing that, I'm almost certain. So let's take a look. So the API is labels, right? Duh. So they have testing. That's interesting. That's cool. Yeah, so they have a header. They have the icon for it. And then content. So if we go back to the example, we can go look at the Java, or not Java, Jesus, the HTML or markup. Yep, figured to be a linear one. Step control is the first, is a form group. That's weird. Weird. Okay, I see. So you're kind of saying for each form, connect this form group to the step. So yeah, they're using kind of many form groups to stitch together a larger entity, or separate entities, right? Like these really could be separate entities. Let's say this is a contact or a person object. The person object might contain an address, and when you're done, it does a save operation, right? I really like the vertical, personally. This is what healthcare is kind of going towards, it seems. So I'm going to search material stepper with routing. This is one reason I like backlit projects. I don't like making them myself because I don't like Hello Worlds. I only do it when I absolutely have to. It's cool. There's your header. There is your stepper. And then from there we have children of foo. That's cool. So let's say, so it is saying, so it just says stepper. That's weird. So let's take a look at that. Well, I am curious. So demo has the step. That's cool. I like that a lot. I think I'm going to use that. This might be a solution for me. So right now I'm focusing on a wizard-based non-monolithic form. And I may have to create two separate like views that's toggleable, but I want to kind of go through down this path. So what we're saying here is the router outlet is based on the step key. So let's take the demo, right? The demo here looks pretty dumb, which is fantastic. It's interesting that it has all this information. Oh, it's to display here. Good. Where's my stepper? So the stepper's here. So we're just adding 4 basic ass steps. That's lame. Okay, so it's not really doing anything. The router outlet foo list, which is interesting to you children, will be the many different things that are rendered, as I understand it. I guess just like how are they building this from steps changes, 4 is rendered. Okay, let's take a look. Weird, so it's not really running the way I think they expected. Where's my step here? Yep, my step. So as I think this is kind of what I'm looking for here, but I could be wrong. I'm just trying to figure out how. So he's just popping with 4 random steps. These random steps have nothing more than a static key, right? Foo. And foo ends up being the routing module outlet, which is a hello world component that just shows you hello foo? No, it doesn't. Where does it show hello? I don't think this works. What version of Angular are we running? We're not even on 5. Okay, yeah, we're out. I'm outie. I've spent too much time on that. It's the same person? Yes, it is. Cool. So they're saying it needs time to reload the showed stat when it comes to that. So you force it to wait. Yikes. Sure. You have a loading step. Got it. Whatever. Don't love that. That's the part of routing we lose. Don't know if that's worth it. Well, I don't want to create a stepper right now. A stepper is a complexity around knowing what is the route previously to the next few, but the one you're on as well. That definitely sounds like a really cool routing problem, but what I want to focus on is how the hell am I going to add a cost for my rental? So I'm going to keep this kind of stupid. I may need to rework it, but I want to start small. So let's remove my cost outlet here. Cool idea. But we're going to go back to my routing module. And my hope was, hey, I can move from here to there, right? And I'd have the context of the rental ID. That doesn't seem to be allowed. So let me look into child routes of a child route. See, I don't want that. That's more stateful. I think that'd be cool for a stepper or even a monolith form once solved. So I'm going to keep it simple. We're going to say this is not an outlet. Alright, so I'm actually going to just grab the original structure I had, because why am I doing this the hard way? Lily flew. Hooray. Okay, so that's restructured. Now I'm going to go back to my rental component here. We're going to revert most of this. One thing I'm sad about is I'm going to have to solve for the rental ID. And this is one of the challenges of creating sub-entities, where I could have created a monolithic form that has the cost there. And maybe I should not break this up. But this is kind of a fun project for solving routing in a more holistic way. Because ultimately, your top level entity is going to have many other entities underneath it. And I found monolithic forms are what I end up building, but there's flattening, there's all sorts of transformations that I don't agree with and I don't like in my code that I've worked on in enterprise environments. So I really just want to try to find something where it's like, hey, you just deal with the small piece you're told to deal with, and that's it. But it might be a dream. So I'm gonna go with the main route here because I made this a pain in the ass. Okay. So I go from here. Totally doesn't work. Why don't you work? Tell me why. Cost/new is not a thing. Sure is a fucking thing. Am I dumb? I think I'm dumb. Take a look at my rental new works. That was a lot of errors, so I need to fix that. So rental new works. So we say rental all new. And we're saying that doesn't, oh, fuck me. That's why. So let's create a new rental. Say 55 rooms. Yeah, we love pets. We're gonna submit. Really? Submit. What crazy ass shit have I done? Oh, that's because they're all in one before. Well, my UI logic is ugly. Alright, so let's take a look here. Where are the... No, I don't need to do that. I don't, because it could save. That's fine. Yeah, it'd be really nice if I can do like the can deactivate. I do believe, after doing a lot more research, the Angular routing structure could be pretty much your state management structure completely. Everything from update versus create. Like right now, I know these patterns could be better. So. Kind of spooky. I don't even specify use ID versus. I guess so. $777. We are now God, apparently. Alright. So I did remove Really? Seems like I broke everything. It's pretty funny. So it's saying it's just trying to call rentals, not put. What in tarnation is happening here? Oh, was doing. Yeah. So it should be a post. So what's the problem here? It's saying bad request. Well, that worked. Now I need to just fix cost new. That's good to know. Let's create a new one. What the fuck? You bitch. Fine, we're adding it to the app, and I'm fixing this default because it's killing me. It's absolutely murdering my face. I'm tired of clicking it. Alright, I'm now going to do a path that is a wildcard. I don't know why I don't have prettier running. I need to configure that. Oh my god, you're just gonna leave it there. Jesus Christ. Oh, what a crime. Alright, so let's see. I don't automatically get routed. That is awesome. Let's do that. Thank you. So I broke that? Really? How did I break that? So double star is not the way to do it. Got it. Heard. Got it. Single star might be it. No. I feel like such a noob. And I'm streaming it. It's a good time. Cool. So full fix that. I can still route there. I save, and now I'm at fees. Or my cost functionality. So that's awesome. Really happy about that. Gonna have to turn off my router event stuff, but that was very helpful for debugging it. So now that I've got that figured out, and you'll notice that it was just updated, so my dates are kind of working. I expect production issues I have to resolve, and I will have to create integration tests to test that and pretend to be different regions. But for now, we're dealing with what we got. So this test data here does work. Everything's functioning the way I expect now. So what I want to do is finish the cost form. Okay, let's see. So I think my rentals table needs to have a cost column. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to say for the cost column, we're going to do cost, and we're going to do this is awful. I don't want to continue this pattern. This is like a cheap way to make a table quickly, but I'd like it to be a little bit more domain knowledge driven. So as of right now, that's going to be rendered as nothing, right? So because there is no data, but I want it to be currency. And right now, like I said, this is not ideal. I pretty much have a name or simple or date, and the only way I can now add an additional one is yeah, it's overcomplicated right now. So this will have to get really renovated. It worked pretty well for a quick, like, can I throw a POC together, but not ideal. So what we're going to do right now is instead of passing it to the simple, I'm going to do one more check and say, am I current cost? Which is god awful way to program this, but we're going to do it because I can. So let's say, well, I guess I did the name that way. So column equals was it total cost? Total cost, yep. The current cost, total cost. Yes. Well, now we're going to see where this is probably going to fall in space because I don't have nested structures down, do I? So current cost is just going to be the entity model there, which might actually be a better way to program this. Let's do cost. Boy, simple. Yeah, pretty terrible. I know. Pretty bad. So now that's current cost, I have to say for this column, now get total cost. Because it's not typed, I'm going to do kind of the string accessor. Do that there. Current cost. So we're continuing the sloppy pattern just to kind of try to, so yeah, so now I can say, all right, I don't have a cost add yet, but I do have my data here. So now I'm back to this route. So I'm getting a bunch of errors that we're going to have to solve, but I'm really happy with where I took this today. So let's commit the current state, and it's going to be a work in progress commit. I am on what branch? So I want to try something fun. Let's see. So I'm in my rentals, right? I have a table. This gives me not CRUD, but it gives me display and the ability to add CRUD for cost, right? So I want CRUD, or I don't even have delete on here yet, right? So I want to see if my router could control add and delete. So let's say I have a add router outlet. Let's see if I can do that. So router outlet. Because I can integrate my permission system into, oh, that's crazy. Okay, let's say I'm adding the name add rental or new rental. So let's say I do that. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to define a simple button component. So I kind of want to make it within the rentals, right? It's an action. So we're going to do actions. And now I'm going to generate the component add rental or new rental. And this new rental will then only display if my guards all execute, right? Which can be simply configured to say, hey, is the privilege structure allow this? And that way I don't have all this if then else stuff everywhere. I push it all to guards and resolvers, etc. So that did not work. Why? Usually it converts it for me. Let's just do new. And I'm going to do delete. Let's just jump the gun. Let's do both. Alright, so my new button here is going to be a button. Right, I think button. So I think this will make it so it's not relative. So no matter where I bend this, it'll take me to the right page because that's what I'm trying to achieve here. I now have all the styling I could take advantage of, right? Could test it, but really it's a dumb link. But I'm trying to extract it so that way my privileges in the future can just be on my routing source as a source of truth, so I don't have to have a bunch of shit everywhere. So now what I'm going to do using children, I'm going to say under all, or we're just going to say here. So under children, I can say, 'cause it's more flat, right? Any one of these might allow for me to add a new rental. So let's keep it a little generic. So title. Well, this doesn't have a title. So let's say path is going to be so new rental. So let's say I do that, right? What happens? It's not yelling at me. It's not loading, so that's not a good sign. Yep, needs a path. Let's see. So it might not be the right use for it. So let me see. If I do other than my app routes, right, and I do some heinous shit. So I'm going to do some janky stuff because I'm playing around with router outlets, but do a can match guard. Let's see. No, that's not what I wanted. Okay. Well, I'm gonna stop doing what I'm doing because this is not good. This is not a fruitful path. But I would like to see if there's a way I can use named outlets. As of right now, it's just going to be something right like app new. And what do I do to this button to make it so styled? I don't understand. So let's take a look at that. That's, I think, the real mystery. So let's take a look here. I see. Skip that. I don't have any styling right now. Delete needs to be a button as well. Oh, they're on to version 3, huh? Good thing there's nothing weird there. I like the transparent backgrounds personally, so I'm going to go with that. Let's go to icons here. Use delete. It's important. import that in the main modules. Interesting. Namespaces of icons. So maybe this is something that I wait to implement this sort of thing. It's very cool. I'd like to integrate Font Awesome into this if possible. So let's see examples, right? So that's home. So let me go to something more already rendered. So let's go to the new component. If I'm being honest, probably don't need this level of separation for something so small. I'll probably come back and change that. Oh, they really have a lot. Probably because the IoT stuff Google does. Alright, so let's say I do that and we do add, right? Let's do font icon. Say it's add. So that's kind of terrible. I think I'm missing some integrations with, or some things I need to pull in. So let's go back to button. And so I need to make sure I add the ARIA labels because I want the site to be accessible. Um, all right, I need to check the laundry. I'll be right back. All right, laundry switched out. I'm gonna have to leave to fold it soon. So not going that guard route, not embedding very using super fancy router outlet technology, but I do want to figure that out because if I could integrate permissions, reduce ng-ifs, and leave it at the route structure, I think that would be ideal. We'll see. So this horrific table structure that will have to be streamlined soon into more kind of domain language for rentals. I need to figure out why my icon button isn't working here. So let's say I do this, right? Say I make it a fob. Let's just say I do that. So icons aren't working. So how do I install that? Really want to try these kinematics, just see what they're about. What am I doing now? I have some arrows for some reason. It's fine for now. Do I have open commits or open changes here? Yeesh. Okay, I'm gonna have to deal with that. So I know my icons aren't working, so we're just gonna stick with simple buttons. Well, that should go back. Yep. Take that off. So that's in the button module, right? Okay, so I have my new button here, which I'm gonna have to rename because I chose new to be simple, and it's gonna make that complicated. But anyway, I have to figure out creating a fee form. So that's something I need to do. Crap. Alright, so I have a pretty simple form here. I'm going to do a form. It's going to have an input of type text. So let's open up my fee here. Dummy. Just did the thing. Yep, so I have a name, I have an icon, and I have an amount. So the icon's going to be kind of a funny set of drop downs, or I'm going to pre-curate them. No create at, no update at. Great. Okay. What am I doing? Cost, fees, things, stuff. So we got name. Gonna have to add options in a minute. this? How did I do this for the other one? Yeah, okay. It's an object, right? Pretty sure I can do this typed? Yeah. So I don't have a fee model or interface, so I'm going to totally do the forbidden. Yep, that's how lazy I am. Alright, so there's my fee interface, and now I'm going to say it's of type fee. Now I'm going to do a fee model. So I'm naming it, right? View model, okay. I'm going to add a to-do here. Use parser to no longer parse dates manually. You jerk. Okay, I don't care. All right, I'm just gonna I'm gonna do it by hand. You're right. You're right. I'm lazy. Okay. to say from an interface perspective, and then new VV model. So I'm saying create this class for me. You're going to bind the cost to form group here. Form control name is bound all correctly. What else do I have on the form view model? What's the form view model? Okay, Ewy. How do I do that for the cost and everything else? Oh, I'm making partial. Yeah, I can do that. Alright, I got 10 more minutes before I gotta start folding laundry and be done with this project for the day, or for some time. Alright, so what am I doing? I need to go here. Yay. And so now that I have that running, I need to embed it in the actual cost component. So that's the problem I'm having, or what I've kind of... So this is where it's going to get weird. Very weird. Very weird. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome home. How was your Thanksgiving?
Oh yeah, Thanksgiving.
No, I was saying, how was it?
Oh, it was good. I ran a half fucking marathon today though. How was yours?
What? What?
Half marathon.
I am asking. What do you mean you ran a half marathon? Is this a? You don't do that as part of a moment.
I don't know why before I didn't have much to shove. I'm like, I want to shove. Shove.
You a medal?
I forgot he asked me if I wanted to do it. I was like, maybe. And what time? Yeah, sure. It wasn't really fun. But it was so much more for me to have fun with because I don't run. You've ever known me like when I run.
Yeah, no.
No.
Walk.
I walk with Bonnie.
Okay.
I have run with Bonnie like 2-3 times.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start doing it again. I just missed all my exercises with my movement. But it's so different from like going on a really long hike because a long hike like you have the waist and your muscles that I gotta really train, like your climbing muscles that go up your back, and then like your downsizing muscles, and then your flat. Like this is just like all flat. Like there's nothing and that's very easy.
Right.
It was fun. It was
I don't know. I think
I'm ready to do nothing. We had pizza and Yeah. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was great.
Yeah.
Low key, ended up playing Mario Party, which, as you know, is going on these days. So
What'd you play?
Mario Party.
What's that?
It's like a digital board game, but Mario.
Oh, Mario. I don't know Mario. I thought you said like Mario Party. I'm like, what's that?
What was that? I mumbled. But that, it was a good time. So we got bored of these because he played with one of his friends in Washington D.C. He was like, I don't play that shit. And I was like, you're literally joining the character battle.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Definitely.
So that was a lot of fun.
Oh.
Yeah, otherwise it was pretty chill.
Cool.
I got there really late. Oh, I got flat tire.
On the way there?
Yeah, on the way there. I didn't even get down the road, and I was like, what's that sound? My set teacher, I was too busy. I didn't know essentially not telling me. So like, I went up. This car is actually pretty big. So they're gonna take 14 miles of gas. And I was like, I've had a sports car, and then I've had to drive 14 miles of gas.
Yeah.
I gotta learn to do it. But got flat, and I was like, ah, my dad must have essentially told you. He was like, no, I heard it. I'm like, that's pretty funny.
You felt it? Or?
Yeah, I felt it and I heard it, and the next thing, so I stopped like right past Robin's Auto Lot.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm in like a all white outfit, and he's like probably not to.
Oh.
And but I'm like in shorts. I was like, I'll be a little
Okay,
car.
good.
It's fun. Yeah. Well, the day after. This was Friday. So this is my mom's event. They ended up having my mom's event as well. But
Oh, did you drive there and back, drive there and back?
yeah, I did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, I got flat. Must have been on my way back originally, but it was punctured pretty big. And so I put on the donut, and I was careful, didn't get my outfit dirty, all white. And I would never make it with white clothes, but I did. And then I get to a tire shop. It took me about an hour to get from there. So I was already like an hour late for sure. And I had left it from early. Like an hour late for when I told them I was going to go to the shop. So I never made it, and I went there an hour late. So that part sucked. So I got to play with girlfriends, which seems really awesome. Very happy for them.
Awesome.
Yeah, and my brother's dog is
I was going to ask you.
girlfriend. Yeah, my sister's boyfriend was there, so the dog had he's decent. He's nice, so
His boyfriend?
yeah, it's nice to meet both of my siblings.
Which sister?
My twin, Catherine.
No, I know Zoe, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Catherine came up here while you were away.
Okay.
So we just had a hot pot.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, this Thanksgiving is action-packed, so I was able to, not nothing today, but like, when I felt like
Yeah, for sure. No. Oh, that was today? Oh, that was yesterday, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to be doing. But that sounds exciting. And fall.
It was a full day. Okay. My friends were like, hey, they live right next door to my old apartment. They're like, you want to come over? And I'm like, I'd love to, but I'm pretty tired.
Yeah.
I don't want to stick around, smoke, and hang out and that stuff. Like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I haven't stayed up any of that since.
Dude, I stayed up till 3.
Holy shit.
Don't know why. I'm on like 6 or 8 hours. I'm like, took my dummy, I was like, it's not kicking in. I guess I'll have to go up to 6 pounds. It's kind of boring, but it's kind of like peaceful boring, and then you kind of convince yourself that you're doing some social endeavor. Oh,
Even if it's complete fiction.
research. It's embellished, but it's definitely new stuff. Like they're on like Diana, Princess Diana. I'm like, oh, like I was alive when all that happened. Like I was a kid when Diana and Charlotte got married, and like you know Princess Diana. I 100% remember all that, and was like, okay. And then I have listened to like Diana's interviews where she like goes on the daily alcohol and stuff like that.
Yeah, don't.
I
Don't
love
add to the video. Marathon out of the blue.
I knew it was
Peer pressure.
You know, okay, here's why. So it wasn't like an official half marathon. It was just friends. It's like his half marathon, you know?
I see.
And he touted it as walk. Most people are going to be walking, or not at all. Like, I was like the weakest link. And he had it, he's like, everyone was meet at 11. And I got there at 11:01. And it was like, all right, we're going. I'm like, I'm not even like, I didn't even come home, as you know, to like really get
Runners
out
are
of
so
here.
green.
Yeah. And also, I mean, there was one guy who did not like the whole thing. He kind of just like, go ahead, you guys go out back, and then on your way back, I'll join you on the way back. But I just like couldn't, I don't know why I couldn't do that.
You're not a quitter.
I'm not even a quitter. But I know how dumb it is to like totally be not prepared for jumping after a big school. Just be like, I need to do that.
I mean, as long as you didn't get an injury.
Yeah.
Like my friend Josh, he used to just go, I'm going to do a 12-mile run. And I'm like, you haven't ran in over like 2 years. He used to just go like cross country run.
Oh, okay. So
But
you
you can't do that anymore. When I asked him, I'm like, oh, what's that random 12-mile run out of nowhere?
And I would argue that what I was saying is nothing. It's body function. There's too much impact.
You can work up to it.
You do need to work up to it. And even then, my body is not like a running on. Like, I'll work out, like, I'll go to my hot yoga classes where, like, I'm dripping sweat, and somebody is climbing. But just, like, straight up, like, army pacing for 13 miles, yeah, it's coming. Which is why I was saying.
Have you ate dinner?
I had pizza. Yeah, I'll probably be ready for another dinner.
My family made mac and cheese with
Oh, that's amazing.
things that
No carbs.
I want to try to like throw together before it's done.
Okay.
I bought a bunch of blocks of cheddar and
Nice. For them?
Yeah. But that's Thanksgiving.
It's Thanksgiving weekend. I think this is like the weekend where you're not going to be like, I made sashimi and salad. Oh, sorry. I thought you like didn't see that. I know it sounds weird. Yeah, he's so dorky. He had like, there's no such thing called a jumping Turkish half marathon. he made things. Or maybe you know what it is? Probably because everybody's a skydiver, so then it's called jumping. And he was like, I don't know what he's talking about. Yeah, not like on the box. Maybe that's how it works. Yeah, the rest of them I don't really know. The base reference from like Dr. Leon here in Orange now.
Okay.
Yeah, yep. Oh, snuggle? Yes. I know. And it's nice that it's nice and breezy when they're around the house.
Yeah, they've been pretty active.
Okay.
A little stressful.
Oh, no. I think I should bring a big trash can or someone that's pretty far. Yeah, I like when it's really like full. I used to let my buns grow really long. summer. We have a very short window. Yeah.
Jumping around.
Yeah, I'm trying to get his little bed. He's been in it. Oh, he's in his little bed. It worked.
Yes.
Oh my god, he is too cute.
I'm still streaming. Whoops.